In this video, I'll be showing you the different types of wheel bearings that are most commonly used in our modern vehicles. So the most commonly used one in cars, SUVs, and front wheel bearings on trucks are the bolt-on hub assemblies. These sometimes have the ABS sensor built into them, sometimes they're separately. The second one I will be showing you a video of is a press-in wheel bearing. This is probably the most challenging one to install, and you need many specialty tools to install this one. This one is most common with Fords or Subarus. If there are other vehicles that you know of that uses this style, please leave it in the comments and I can add it to the video. And the last one that I will be showing you is more commonly used in older vehicles, but they are still used in the rear bearings of trucks. They are called tapered roller bearings, radial bearings, or cylinder bearings. These bearings are used on a truck when it has a solid rear end. So when watching these videos, your vehicle might need different size tools and the process might be slightly different, but for the most part it should give you everything that you need to know to do the job. Always check for the proper torque specs for your vehicle because every vehicle is different. If you need to know torque specs for a certain type of vehicle, you can always leave a comment and I will get back to you. Maybe a Sport 2.4 liter. First thing you're going to want to do is raise the vehicle up, take the wheel off. This is a 19 millimeter. Then you're going to be removing the brake caliper. These two bolts are an 18 millimeter. Then you're going to unplug your ABS wire. Then you can hang your brake caliper up out of the way. Then you can remove your brake rotor. In order to do this, you will need to remove this Torex T30 retainer screw. Then after removing the rotor, remove your center nut on your CV axle. This is a 36 millimeter. Then there are 3 hub bolts on the back side. These are 15 millimeter. To remove these, you might need to turn the wheel one way or the other or use an extension. Then push on your CV axle, make sure it moves. Then here comes the fun, to remove the wheel bearing. Start with a wheel bearing puller and hit it a couple times, see if it comes off. If it doesn't, spray a little PB blaster. Then if you have a second person, hit it with a hammer at the same time you're using the puller. If that still doesn't work, you can resort to using an air chisel. Just be careful not to damage the steering knuckle. Some come off easier than others, some are really hard, but eventually it will come off. The reason why sometimes it comes off so hard is because your steering knuckle is aluminum and your wheel bearing is steel, and aluminum and steel together corrode. Now that you got it off, compare it to the new one, make sure it's the right one. Pinch together this little clip here and take off your ABS wire off the brake shield. Then this brake shield, you don't have to put it back on, but it's recommended that you do. Sometimes they get so rusted that you can't put it back on. If it was damaged at all when you were trying to remove it, just try to fix it the best you can. And then the surface on the steering knuckle where the wheel bearing mates up to it, clean it up with a wire brush. If there was any damage done, try to fix it the best you can using a small die grinder. And then you're ready to install your new wheel bearing. Put a little bit of never seize on the splines of the CV axle. Then don't forget to reinstall your brake shield. Then align all 3 of your bolts for your wheel bearing and get them started. These are torqued to 96 foot-pounds. Then reinstall your brake rotor, then your brake rotor retainer screw. Then reinstall your brake caliper. These bolts are torqued to 89 foot-pounds. Then hook up your ABS wire. Then torque your spindle nut to 151 foot-pounds. Then install your wheel, tighten up your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. In this video, I'll be showing you how to replace a front wheel bearing in a 2015 Ford Escape. This video will also work for a 2013 through a 2019. First thing you're going to want to do is raise the vehicle up, then remove the lug nuts. These are a 19 millimeter. Then we're going to be removing the brake caliper. These are an 18 millimeter. Then unplug the ABS wire by pushing in this clip and pulling on it. Then hang the brake caliper up out of the way. Now remove your brake rotor. Then remove this lower bolt that holds the lower ball joint in place. The bolt is a 15 millimeter and the nut is an 18 millimeter. Then remove this lower strut bolt. This is a 15 millimeter. Now remove the spindle nut. This is a 32 millimeter. Now check to make sure your CV axle moves freely. Take the tie rod stud off. This is a 15 millimeter. Now remove these 3 10 millimeter bolts that hold the dust shield on. Now use a long pry bar to pull down the lower control arm to get the lower ball joint out. Now use a hammer and tap on the upper steering knuckle to remove it from the strut. Now you can remove the knuckle assembly from the car. Now here's the part number for the wheel bearing we'll be replacing. I also have a video on the CV axle. Here's the part number for that as well. Here's what the wheel bearing looks like. This is a press-in wheel bearing. You're going to need a press or wheel bearing removal tool to install this wheel bearing. So to get started, the first thing we're going to press out is the hub. Find a socket that fits on the hub to press it out. Then make sure on the bottom the hub isn't touching anything as you're pressing it out. We used a couple of 6x6s to hold it up. Then once you get it out, part of the bearing will still be on the hub. but I'll show you an easy trick how to get this off later. Then you're going to want to remove this ABS sensor. This is a Torx T25. Gently wiggle it back and forth, and maybe even use a little pry tool to pry it up, but be careful because these break pretty easy. Then once you get that out, use a C-clip pliers to pull out the C-clip. Then to get the bearing out, you can either use the press again or this wheel bearing removal tool. And a helpful tip, anytime you're pressing something out, what you can do is take a hammer and hit on it on the steering knuckle. You don't have to hit it on the wheel bearing itself, but just hit on the steering knuckle and the shock of it will help pull it out. This will also work for pressing out ball joints or bushings. Then once the wheel bearing's out, take a scuff pad and clean up where the bearing was in place. Then anytime you're installing a wheel bearing, use the old one as the press. Put it up on top, press it in with that. That way it's the same size as the outer diameter. That's where you want to push on, is the outside rim. Do not push on the inside of the wheel bearing or you will destroy it. Then once you have it in place, use the C-clip pliers to put the C-clip back in. Leave the open space where the sensor goes in. Now you can reinstall your sensor. Now to get that wheel bearing ring off the hub, what you're going to do is take your cutoff wheel, take the smallest blade you have. I usually keep a couple extras that I wear down for this, and you're going to grind down on the piece of the bearing just before you touch on the hub on both ends. Take your time at this so you don't scar it. Then take your air chisel and chisel on that part that you just cut until it moves, and what it'll do is crack in half at that point. And now you can take your air chisel and just gently push it off the end. It'll come off pretty easily now. And once you get it off, clean it up with a scuff pad. And now to press the hub in, what you're going to do is line it up on your press again, and you don't want to just have it held up by the steering knuckle like we did when we pressed it out. What you're going to want to do is take a smaller socket and put on the inner ring of the wheel bearing, not the outer part like we did before. Again, if you don't do this correctly, this will destroy the wheel bearing. Once it bottoms out, you know you have it in all the way. Spin it by hand and make sure it's working properly. And now we can reinstall the steering knuckle back onto the vehicle. Start by installing the steering knuckle back up onto the strut. Use a long chisel and just hit on it here until it goes back up in place. It's hard to see, but on the back side there's this little notch that the strut will go into the steering knuckle. Take it all the way up until it bottoms out. Then install your bolt and tighten it up. This is torqued to 59 foot-pounds, then 180 degrees. Then get your CV axle through and get your bottom ball joint back in. You might need to use a pry bar again to hold the control arm down to get it in place. Then put your bolt for your ball joint back in. This is torqued to 61 foot-pounds. Then reinstall this dust shield. Put your tie rod back in. You can torque this to 35 foot-pounds. Then plug your ABS sensor back in. Put your brake rotor back on. Then reinstall your brake caliper. Torque these bolts to 129 foot-pounds. Then you can put your spindle nut back on. This is torqued to 59 foot-pounds, then an additional 90 degrees. Then you can put your wheel back on, torque your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. In this video, I'll be showing you how to replace the rear wheel bearings and seals in a 2001 Ford Ranger 4.0 liter. To get started, raise the vehicle up, remove the wheels. These are a 19mm. Then to get the drums off, take a hammer and lightly tap on it until it breaks free. Then remove the drums. Then you're going to want to remove the differential cover. These are a 13mm. Then keep at least one bolt on top in, but loosened up. And then you can take a screwdriver and gently pry the cover open, and then let the gear oil drain out. And then you're going to want to turn the vehicle on without starting it, shift it into neutral, and then using your hands, turn the drive shaft until you can see this bolt here. This is an 8mm. You can either use a wrench like this or take a long extension with a socket and loosen this bolt up and take it out. So once that bolt is out, this pin will come out freely. You can gently pull it out. Then whichever side you want to work on first, push in on the hub part of the axle until you can see this C-clip. Then push it out with a screwdriver and be careful not to drop it. And then you can grab a hold of the hub and pull the axle out on that side. And then to get the bearing out, use a bearing puller like this and put it on the end of your slide hammer. Just be careful when you pull it out. There'll probably be oil that comes out. Now you can take some brake cleaner and clean up the end where the bearing and seal will go back in. And now to install the seal and the bearing, use a bearing and seal driver. For this one, we used a 50mm to insert the bearing and a 59mm to insert the seal. Tap your bearing in first gently until it bottoms out, and then insert your seal and tap that in until it bottoms out. And then you always want to add some gear oil on top of your bearing. Then clean up your axle shaft, especially where your seal and your bearing rides. Then install your axle, push it in until it goes past where it needs to be. Then carefully reinstall your C-clip. Then pull your axle back out where it's supposed to be. Then once you have both sides done, you can rotate it and put this pin back in. And then reinstall your 8mm bolt and then tighten it back up. Then use a putty knife and clean up the old gasket on the differential and the cover. Then take a wire brush, clean it up the best you can. Then take some brake cleaner and clean it up. Now I recommend using gasket maker on the differential cover. Make sure you use the gear oil formula, the green stuff. Then apply your gasket to it and then put another layer of gear oil gasket maker. Then install your cover, go around gently, tighten them all up. And these are torqued anywhere from 20 to 25 foot-pounds. Now on the front side of the differential, using the fill hole, fill it with the recommended gear oil. This one uses 80-90. Fill it up until it starts running out. Then put your plug back in. Then put your wheels back on. Torque your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to get more short and to the point how-to videos like this that saves you time so you can get more done.